So it was quite exciting being part of that journey, creating what probably was a very game-changing organization, not just in IT industry, but I think for India, because it did change a lot about how India sees itself and how especially middle-class Indians see themselves in the difference they can bring in. The difference between tech and deep tech is Flipkart is a tech company, Swiggy is a tech company, Zomato is a tech company, right? They're all tech-based organizations which are creating convenience for urban and semi-urban India. Right? So they are the tech companies. The deep tech, when we say, is something where technology is a big differentiator by itself, and it is solving a real life problem.
What are the top 5 qualities that you look out for personally when you decide to invest in a founder?
The first is that they have to have co-founders. And I think it's statistically the single founder companies do not succeed as well as the one which started with the co-founders.
So welcome to the Sustainable Stack, and we'll discuss everything that is tech, sustainability, and the future of innovation here. I'm Saloni Malhotra, and I'm the founder of Desi Crew, as well as the author of Roots and Wings, the published authorized biography of Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala. And today we have a very special guest joining us. His name is Rajiv Kuchhal. Rajiv is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and a veteran technology leader who has spent nearly 4 decades in building companies ground up. He started his career at Infosys and then was the first employee of Infosys BPO, which was then called Progeon. And then he went on to be the CEO of OnMobile. I met Rajiv when he first decided to leave the corporate world and start his investing journey. And I still remember the first call that I got in May 2008 when Rajiv said, "Saloni, are you still looking for money?" And that's how Rajiv went on to be an angel investor and the chairman of the board of Desi Crew. So welcome, Rajiv. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Rajiv was also then gone on to invest with and be a general partner at Exfinity Ventures, and has invested in several social enterprises, not-for-profits, and tech startups over the years. Rajiv, it's really, really good to have you here. And I think before we dive in, everyone would love to know, your a little bit about you, your background from Infosys, from Progeon, and what drives you and this thrill of building something new over and over again. So over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Saloni. Thanks for having me here. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I think somewhere early in my career, I realized that I am a small company guy. I am a small setup guy, and I am ready to take the risks which come along with it. That's the risk I was ready to bear. Maybe something to do with me being a Bania and coming from that business community. I was not ready for a startup of my own because I don't think that time the environment or ecosystem was also there. But that's how I joined Infosys when it was small. I was very, very keen. I had offer from some other companies which were large at that time. In fact, I remember one of them talked about their scale very proudly, and it scared me. And the reason I joined Infosys, much against the advice and happiness of my family, was because I thought, it's worth trying it out and seeing where it goes.
How big was Infosys at that point?
Well, I was 118th employee, so you can imagine how it was.
Yeah.
And, like they said, one of the persons said, when things work out, you are the visionary. If they don't, you are a blind man with who couldn't see his nose, So fortunately, in this case, it worked out. So it was quite exciting being part of that journey, creating what probably was a very game-changing organization, not just in IT industry, but I think for India, because it did change a lot about how India sees itself and how especially middle-class Indians see themselves in the difference they can bring in. So in that sense, it was very, very fulfilling and heartening journey.
Very interesting. So from Infosys, it was Infosys BPO and on mobile, which were also, like you said, in fledgling at that point. You were employee number one at Infosys BPO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, it was very interesting why and how I moved from Infosys to Infosys BPO. So Infosys grew quite rapidly. We were part of that journey. But it came a stage where, I was actually getting a little itchy. And it just so happened that in various dribs and drabs, I started hearing about BPO. I was handling telecom business. And one of my customers saw these call centers coming up in Gurgaon and said, why doesn't Infosys does this? It sounds very similar. And I couldn't relate to it. I says, no, we are moving up the value chain. Why should we go down and do call centers? And then I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of a friend in Gurgaon, where they were running this back office for one US company. And that kind of triggered, saying that, well, there are so many people who are here who are commerce graduates or, just graduates. And with the connectivity being so much cheaper and widely available, maybe it's something to do. But, that time it kind of got filed as an interesting thing in a corner. And then in 2001, because I was handling the telecom and product engineering business, that basically with internet product companies, that entire thing came crashing down. And we were heroes in 1 year and zeros the next year. We had, we were barely managing in our group to stay where we were and not have a negative growth. But we had built the management team. And by chance, around that time, my boss had this conversation that he's discussing with board and starting the BPO. Now, I had some sense about it because it's not that I didn't know. And I thought it's a great idea. And to me, it was a great opportunity because I don't get to leave Infosys, an organization I very strongly related to, but at the same time, get to do something new. By that time, and this was 2001, there was a clamor for ITNs and even tier three engineering companies. There were companies lining up to hire them. So we had cracked the engineers problem. But there was still a very large number of graduates who didn't have that kind of job opportunities. And I felt that this could be a great, model to take what India has done to that larger segment. And it
And
was
this is
not
the early
new.
2000s.
This is 2001. This was really
2001.
2001.
Right, right.
Yeah, April 2001. I mean, it was after April board meeting we had in, I was in Chandigarh actually at that time. I had set up Infosys Chandigarh and I was in Chandigarh in year 2001. And it was my flight from Bangalore to Delhi where, my boss was on the same flight and we sat together. And it was really in the April board meeting where that whole thing about slowness was hitting. Because I remember that Infosys gave the forward guidance of 20% or 30% growth. And at that time, that was such a sacrilege because we were all growing at
30% growth
100.
was sacrilege.
It was because we had all done 100% every year.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a stunned silence in the room when Nandan said, "Yeah, we have given the market guidance of 30% growth."
Yeah.
So it was during that time that my boss spoke about BPO, and I think I took about a few days to think over it, and came back and told him, "Yes, I'm ready to explore that." I mean, the fact that we had slowed down did mean that I had a lot of time in my hand to start that exploration. So that's how the BPO journey started. It was very, very interesting journey. Um, we were the first IT company, large IT company, to formally get into that space. Uh, so it did get a lot of credibility because of that, and it did provide uh, going forward the kind of job opportunities which we had we had envisaged that it will provide.
Very interesting.
Uh,
Sorry, you were saying
yeah,
something.
yeah. I think on mobile was just more because at some point I was getting a little restless, wanting to get back to tech.
So after working in all the stellar companies and big brands in India, you decided to go solo as an angel investor in 2008. I mean, today a lot of people think about angel investing as the coolest thing to do, but back in the day, 20 years ago, not a lot of people even knew what angel investing was. So what prompted you, to move in that direction?
Yeah. So actually, first I will say that though you mentioned that I worked for the brands, they were not the brands when I started working for them. They did become brands subsequently. So I was quite comfortable dealing with organizations which don't have a brand at that point of time. I don't think I was thinking too much at that point of time. I wasn't even sure if I've stepped out of the corporate world for good or is it a temporary break. Because what it does is, as I was moving into new and new, I had faced about 16 years of very rapid growth in whatever I was doing. And I thought I'll just take a small break and, whatever I have learned during this journey, can I take it to a larger uh, audience and a different setup? The other thing is realizing that whatever I have done, if there is a larger social purpose to it, it, gives it that additional kick. And that's when I decided, let me get engaged with social enterprises. The good thing about being involved with some of these organizations early stage was fortunately I did have some amount of elbow room when it comes to finances, so I could take the financial risk. Um, I Yeah, the investing was new, but again because I have tried things new, so I was quite comfortable in trying it out. And somehow when you came and that idea appealed quite a bit because to me it looked like an extension of what I've been doing.
Right.
And what I saw that we could take the problem of engineers to graduates. Now we have solved the urban problem, but can we take that to the rural areas and extend that? I mean, it turned out to be a much tougher journey than I thought, and it's taken much longer.
Yeah.
But the point is that at that point of time, to me, it was in the same direction that it was moving. So it looked like the most natural thing to do. And since I still wanted to stay in touch with tech, I also started investing in some of the tech startups as well, which again were probably very early stages. But when you take risks at early stage, you have to be ready for everything. It may work out or it may not work out. But that's the way it was. So for me, it was something very logical extension of what I had been doing.
So over the last 2 decades, how many companies have you invested in now?
Well, frankly, I don't remember. It's not that many, and I stopped angel investing some time back.
No, but angel and otherwise, as a
So
as a
as a VC, which I became a part of Exfinity,
yeah,
the reason I decided to work through a fund rather than directly was because I think it just brought in certain kind of discipline.
right.
And I didn't want to create an organization by myself. You know what I mean? I didn't want to set up an office and, do things like that. So
Yeah.
when this opportunity came along and I was asked that, Mohandas Pai actually approached me and said, they are setting up Xfinity Fund. So it looked like a great idea to get involved with it. Again, we didn't know what it meant, but we did get involved. So I will say if you look at Xfinity and look at my own investment, then it will be obviously more than 50. Uh, but dominant of that will be now through Xfinity
But that
than what I did during my time as angel investor. So in that sense, yes, a very wider variety of organizations which we got into.
incredible. I think one of the questions which a lot of people keep asking, Rajiv, especially the youngsters who are coming in today, what is the difference between tech and deep tech, right? How is it different? And do investors like you look for any institutional support that the founder should have, in a tech or a deep tech venture? Or, people who are just building on their own in their garages, which is the most romanticized notion, right? Uh,
Yeah.
do they also stand a chance?
No, no. So we, at this stage, we don't really give institutional support in deep tech, especially. A lot of, I will say, big criteria. I think what it does so one of the things is that it's not that you wait for companies to come to you. Sometimes you have to go look out.
Right.
And I think being associated with some institution and organization, what it does is it makes you more easily discoverable than trying to discover something what's going on in a garage. So in that sense, they may have an advantage. But when they come to us or any next step, the fact that they had that support, unless that support has resulted in something meaningful, does not carry any value
Sure.
at this stage. And it may change, but at this stage, it does not. The difference between tech and deep tech is Flipkart is a tech company, Swiggy is a tech company, Zomato is a tech company, right? They're all tech-based organizations which are creating convenience for urban and semi-urban India, right? So they are the tech companies. The deep tech, when we say, is something where technology is a big differentiator by itself, and it is creating solving a real life problem. And at least in our case, we went to B2B deep tech because all the people who came together from for Xfinity had worked in B2B environment, so we didn't understand B2C at all. So we had no idea what it means to get 1 million customers, 5 million customers. We were from the background, does it mean to get 10 customers, 50 customers? How do you scale them? How do you mine them, farm them? So we were more comfortable in B2B and we were very comfortable in deep tech, which at that time meant using tech to solve some real problems.
Can you give an
Now,
example of a company that fits in that?
so for example, here was this company, before this whole AI became a buzzword. Actually, I always find it little amusing because AI has been around for a long time, except it used to be AI ML, that used to be the term. If you look at it right from the beginning, we have been working on, most of our companies have been working on AI ML,
Right.
which is that you learn as you are doing along. Of course, what is different now is the large language model. The people were building solutions to understand you, but now what has come out is that they're able to explain to you in the language you understand.
Right.
And because of the large amount of things available, some of the things people need to build earlier are now just available off the shelf. So, there has been a change, no doubt. So, for example, in the first fund, we invested in one company, which I think was little ahead of the time and did very well, but then it just collapsed. Which was that if you uh, put take a photo of a shirt, other than the size, it will classify what kind of shirt it is. And they were selling it to people who had large warehouses and need to go online for their cataloging. So very useful for them because a lot of catalogs had mistakes. And they had a very strong visual machine learning and AI engine lying behind it. Now, here it's solving a real life problem. The organization, the stores need to go online or online stores. They need to, how much time it takes in models, for example. Whereas here they could take the piece and almost like fit it into a model. So they didn't have to do too many photo shoots. So now there were real life problems. I think they were just ahead of time. They got good traction. It needed a lot of money because they had to build everything from scratch. Today, you can get a lot of these things ready-made available.
Right.
So they burned through quite a bit of cash before they could see sufficient revenue traction. But there were companies like that. The one which did very well in the first was building, again, analytical tools on how to, for the app developers, to how to best engage with your users. So their customers were app developers, large app developers, not mom and pop shop type, who wanted to see how to best engage. And that company is still doing very well. We exited, but they are doing extremely well. So I can go on in such examples where here the tech was the differentiator. And there is a large moat. That large moat is not because of network effect, which is in many ways is what the e-commerce and all your Swiggy Zomatos have. What they have done is the network effect. So you have to pump in a lot of money, create that network. So this is not network effect. The tech itself is a differentiation. Ideally patentable.
Ideally patentable.
Ideally. But if it is not, that's okay too. So that is the difference between tech and deep tech.
And when you say ideally patentable, but it's not, even then it's okay. How much does it make a difference if you have a patent? And how easy or how difficult does it get for, someone who has a patent?
So I don't think getting a patent by itself is a difficult thing. I think
Hmm.
it just gives you that comfort that what you have done is something you can fight out later
Hmm.
if required. As a company, as an organization, it does give you that strong brownie points. And at times, the patents itself becomes valuable, especially if you're early in the game.
Right,
And somebody may just buy you out because of to defend themselves than
right,
anything else.
right.
So it could be a great exit strategy sometimes if you have patents
Hmm.
which are of that nature. So do they create value? They do create value, but not directly, not unless they lead to direct business or revenues.
Interesting.
Because we are not into pure research. We are not investing in pure research.
Right,
We're
right,
still investing in technology which has got a real life usage.
right. So over the years, you've obviously met a bunch of founders of all shapes and sizes and, natures. What are the top five qualities that you look out for personally when you decide to invest in a founder?
Yeah. You see, first is that they have to have co-founders.
Hmm.
And I think it's important for multiple reasons. One is, of course, statistically, the single founder companies do not succeed as well as the one which started with the co-founders. Uh, because and these co-founders have to be ideally skills wise complementary to each other. So we think is first is very important is to have co-founders. In fact, many times we have told guys, go back, find a co-founder, come back,
Hmm.
because you need a co-founder and you need a co-founder like this. And sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't succeed. So I think the first thing which we look at is that do you have the um, complementary team. After that, what we look is resilience. I think what is critical is that this is not get rich quick scheme. It takes a long time. It can take decade, maybe more, before, especially in B2B deep tech,
Hmm.
before you start seeing the results.
Hmm.
So you need to have the resilience to be a marathon runner than get tired in a small sprint. The third thing which, and many of these are very subjective. You can't really put a
Of course, it's not a
one. Yeah.
like it's not like you check everything.
Yeah, you just got to get a sense of it.
Yeah.
The third is are they able to adapt? So, it's a bit of a contradiction that they need to have a conviction in what they're doing, but at the same time, they need to be flexible because the market dynamics may change, external environment may change, or
Right,
some of the assumptions they started out with may not turn out to be right.
right.
I mean, I can give you an example. The most successful company in our portfolio, what they started out, and these guys were kids who had actually dropped out of college. I mean, from masters, they completed their bachelor's, but they actually dropped out and started. So they were, you can imagine, 23 years old maybe. And what they are doing today is completely different. The underlying theme is similar, is
Hmm.
same, but is very different. And they were able to, pivot themselves, understanding that, yeah, this may be a great idea. Yeah, it is of use. It's an idea to product was great, but product to business wasn't. It won't give me a lot of revenues. It costs me a lot. It cost me $5 to get $1. So it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. So let me not do it. So what can I do? And from then they picked up a thread. Maybe I can do. So then it was still costing them $2 to get a dollar. But then they figured out something else, completely new, different market segment. And today that company is the most successful company in our portfolio. We
Interesting.
are at some point they may become a unicorn. They are not
Very
that
nice.
far, but yeah, they still have some way to go. But they were able to adapt and pivot without losing the focus and without losing the heart. So that's where the resilience came in. The fourth thing we look is depth of thought. That whatever they're doing, are they thinking or they're shooting from the hip?
Hmm.
Have they done enough research? Or if they're giving the answers, are they thought through? Right? So how quick are they on their feet? So these are the fourth thing which we look for. And frankly, last thing we look for is how much they value the money.
How much they value the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what you don't want, you invest and somebody sees the money and starts splurging.
Hmm.
Right? You don't want them to start becoming cautious only when they're running out of money. You want them to be cautious from day one.
Hmm.
They have to value money.
Hmm.
They have to value the investment. That's what it is, investment. It's not a check to go and
Right.
have a nice lifestyle. So how much do they value that? So I'll say these are broadly some of the things, except first one, which I said founder, co-founder. Everything else is subjective.
Of
Everything
course.
else is what's driven.
So co-founder is a must.
Ideally, yeah.
But a lot of co-founders don't get along. There's always a
So
conflict
we
at
do
some
have
point.
situations where beyond a point, co-founders do part, and sometimes we advise them to part.
Right.
But I think if it happens at a stage where there is a team, it's still okay. But I think at early stages, it's very, very important to have co-founders.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
because you need somebody to bounce off your ideas with.
Yeah.
You need, because it can be, as you will probably know, it can become a very lonely journey during early days.
Right.
And that's why you need someone out there.
Right.
So the success in the case of having a co-founder is that much better and higher.
Yeah. So I'm just, Bangalore obviously has the largest, I think, volume-wise, startup companies. I think Delhi gives a tough competition now, according to the Startup India data. But in Bangalore, there are lots of local problems which nobody is solving. It takes 40 minutes to get a taxi from the airport. It takes forever to reach the office from the airport. There's
Mm.
water crisis, you name it, right? Like,
Yeah.
why are we not solving things for ourselves? Why are we solving these, abstract problems, but not improving the quality of our own lives? What's happening?
Well, we are getting into a stage where we are going beyond the tech into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And, India is a very complex, diverse, and vibrant democracy. And with all its benefits and, disadvantages which come along with it. So I don't think that many of these problems have such a easy solution. And that's where we find that many of us, when we get into the real world, we find that sometimes things are not the way we imagine them to be.
Hmm.
In fact, in the other part of the world where I also work in, with our foundation and other things in the social sector, it's always a continuous learning journey, a continuous journey of learning. Or what does it mean? So I can't really say there are easy solutions to it. I think the important thing is to continue to engage with all the stakeholders, understand what are their drivers, what are their compulsions, and they have their compulsions, which, sometimes we can get into moral indignation.
Hmm.
The reality is that it's there, right? And um, having said that, I think Bangalore does have a very active civil society.
Hmm.
Within that, we do manage to create many things, and there are many problems we have solved as well. But it is far more complex than when we make out to be.
No,
I mean,
yeah, Priyank Kharge said very nicely actually when he was asked that nobody from Bangalore says that I want to go and work in Kanpur, right? But
yeah,
everybody from everywhere says I want to come and work in Bangalore. And the largest influx of people is now in Bangalore, like new people coming into the city and the city expanding. And it's just phenomenal how much the city needs to adapt as well. So I hear you,
absolutely.
but at the
Yeah.
same time, I feel we are taking such bold, audacious goals as a city, we also, and the brains are there, the money is there, right? So yeah, one would just think that it would be a little bit faster, a little bit better.
Yeah, but it's better. But the problem is it gets worse at a faster speed than it gets better. So
Yeah. So, Rajiv, the consumer tech business became very not consumer tech necessarily, all the consumer-led businesses, became very popular with Shark Tank. Suddenly, households were talking about, EBITDA and CAC and all of those, MBA terms.
mm,
Um, and while the consumer businesses and D2C businesses really took off, for tech and deep tech, right? How do we make it easier for, especially now with AI, how do we make it easier for people to experiment, toy around, build things so that we can solve some of these problems that we face on a day-to-day basis everywhere? It doesn't matter whether it's Bangalore or it's Bhavnagar, right? Like there are problems everywhere. So how do we, what kind of format, what do we do that can really solve problems for India using tech and deep tech?
you see, you have to realize that India has a very unique thing,
Hmm.
and that is a very strong public-private partnership. You know, a lot of the tech innovations have come from Bangalore-based teams collaborating with Bangalore and Delhi cooperation, if I can call it.
Hmm.
So starting with Aadhaar
Right.
and then UPI, and then whatever else we are working on. There are many other things which are going on. Many of these came from Bangalore.
Hmm.
Not this your Namma Yatri, which is also become very popular.
Right.
So eGov, which is helping digitize the local governments. So there are a lot of things which we are doing at that level. If you look at a lot of the contracts of the entire income tax portal is being managed out of Bangalore. So at a central government level, there has been a very high level of engagement which has happened with the tech ecosystem.
Hmm.
You see, for longest period, we used to call tech in India is either export or import.
Right.
What we use, we import. What we develop, we export. And we were not, it was like literally two economic engines running in parallel, right? There has been some convergence which has happened. When the startup ecosystem came along, it took the benefits of the tech ecosystem, right? What did tech ecosystem do? It led to proliferation of engineering colleges.
Hmm.
It led to understanding of what does it mean to develop good quality code. I had first time seen internet when I went to Canada, right? I mean, I had not seen. And by 2001, 2002, 2003, 4, 5, whatever you put it, we knew what's happening in the world. We were on par. So they brought that part for solving some of the urban India issues.
Hmm.
Now, that may have been convenience related, but the point is it had its own economic benefits,
Of course.
which it created. So now people relate to that. And it took long time for us to reach there. When it comes to deep tech and solving India problems, I'll put it in two buckets. One which has to be done with government,
Hmm.
in partnership with government. And I think at least at central government level, there have been a lot of progress in that. And across many years, across governments.
Hmm.
It certainly started, in late 2000s, and it has only got accelerated since then because people have seen what it has done. And, you know, I mean, when we go to US, we really miss UPI.
You really
It's like
miss
UPI.
UPI, of
Yeah.
course.
There's so many things you miss. You miss your Digi Yatra.
Yeah.
There's so many things you go there and say, "Kya yaar, I wish I had this."
Yeah.
So there's so many things which we have done which we miss outside. So I won't say that we are not solving the problems. We are. Uh, Certain things take time, especially when it comes to physical infrastructure.
Hmm.
There it becomes very, very challenging, right? I mean, look at the smart cities. It was all done with a lot of money thrown in, a lot of great ideas, but very difficult to implement because of the number of stakeholders which gets involved. I mean, what I may want is not what a farmer may want, right?
Right.
A guy may not be willing to let go of a house is living for generation
Right.
to, for some elite people to come and build a,
Right.
condominium there.
Yeah, of
Right?
course.
So, and we are a democracy. We are not uh, a dictatorship or, authoritarian state where we can just bulldoze our way through. So I think we have to be engaging and be involved.
Right.
And we have to see tech as a means without understanding. We see so many people coming up with tech solutions to solve, let's say, agriculture problem, agri tech, ed tech. You name it, it's there.
Right.
Everybody is trying to solve that problem. But have we understood how farmers operate, how that ecosystem operates? Have we gone and spent time there? And if we can't, or if we don't, or we don't relate to that segment, then there is a challenge.
Yeah.
So you can create the tech, and the tech may be useful. But to me, that tech has not become a product. A product is only when customers start adapting.
Hmm.
When there is, and then it becomes a business when there is a business value to it. Right. So you have to be innovative.
Right.
You have to think about how to go doing it. So I won't say it's easy.
Yeah.
And because of the foundation now that I travel in interiors, you see, I mean, I was in a region where there was no Airtel signal
Hmm. Even now in 2026.
in 2026.
Wow.
A few months back, there was no internet signal,
Hmm.
no Airtel signal, right? So suddenly my UPI won't work.
Hmm.
Can you imagine, what happens? You're so dependent on your mobile phone.
Yeah.
I used
Yeah,
to
you
tell,
stop carrying cash.
yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Stop carrying so many things. You
Totally.
don't carry directions.
Correct.
Now imagine your Google map is not working. You are stranded.
Right.
You don't know where to go, left or right. So the old standard, you have to get down and ask someone.
And then look for the tree from where you have to take a right turn.
Correct. Absolutely. So, it's a, you have to understand that part. You have to understand why things, what it will take to reach those areas.
Yeah.
The good news is, thanks to mobile, people are aware of tech. But we have to see what works for them. I think the tech industry, the mobile industry's biggest contribution was understanding what works for common man.
Hmm.
And they saw that if they bring that price point down to this, they will have a billion users and not, 50 million or 100 million.
Right.
Uh,
That's commercial scale.
that's the scale.
That's the scale.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think mobile industry is something to learn from.
Yeah. Very interesting. You also mentioned, that we are experimenting a lot as a country, and there is a lot of innovation that has happened. I think it's only prudent to mention the place where we met and we spent so much time over the last 20 years, the ITM Research Park, and Professor Junjunwala, who introduced both of us. What do you think of the work that has gone on there, and what excites you about a place like that?
So, I think to me, the most incredible thing about Professor Ashok Jhanjhanwala and thus IIT Madras, I don't think it was, and you always need a disruptor, and I think he was that disruptor, is that he was always very good at identifying a problem ahead of its time and say, how do we go about it? And saying that how technology can be used to solve real world problems,
Hmm.
to solve real life problems. And I think that has been a very, very strong uh, contribution of IIT Madras specifically, and a place like IITM Research Park to be an incubator to many such organizations. And the good news is that now many of them are emerging everywhere. What we still lack is, of course, a very vibrant industry academia interaction.
Hmm.
And we still haven't cracked that model. We, um, we need really a lot more depth still going there and a
Mm.
lot more breadth. Breadth, I think, is happening, but I think we need a lot more depth happening there. Good news is there's a large recognition. Everybody is talking about it. Everybody is doing something about it. And only when you have 1,000 people doing it, you can see 5, 10 humongous successes. So I am more optimistic, but certainly IIT Madras was, I will say, the first institution to realize and trigger it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the common themes which, uh, I mean, I obviously picked it up from the incubator, but which bonded us, was that you always thought of tech and sustainability together. And having worked with you for the last, 2 decades now, every time we are sitting and making a decision, you are always opposed to, uh, you know, like it could be a very profitable decision, but if it doesn't, like if it causes destruction in any way, you're always hesitant in some, you will take more time to think about it than another leader would, right?
Yeah.
You always think about balancing things and about taking things together. I'm just curious a little bit more about, that philosophy of yours and how it plays out in your decision making.
You see, actually, I will say that some of it maybe was inherent, but a lot of it also came from Infosys.
Hmm.
Because you realize that sometimes it may be a profitable decision in short term.
Hmm.
But long term, it's actually going to hurt you.
Hmm.
So if you ever take a long term perspective and you first say that there has to be sustainability of the business, then you cannot divest yourself from the ecosystem.
Hmm.
And you cannot you have to clearly take care of your self interest. But there's a difference between self interest and selfish interest, right?
Hmm.
So you have to take care of your self interest. But if you are divest from ecosystem, it can take you only that much further. And I would say a lot of that thinking came really from spending time in Infosys.
Hmm.
Because we did see at many times the decision being taken, which looked in short term very stupid, but in long run turned out to be an extremely good decision.
Hmm.
I still remember one of the largest customers Infosys had, and they called Infosys and many other companies for negotiation. And Infosys chose not to bring down the rates. And I think it was not just the pricing. Pricing definitely was a large factor. But I think it was also the way they were treating the vendors.
Hmm.
And for them, it was important to be treated with respect. We are bringing something to the table. It's not that we are, not bringing something to the table. In that time, actually, the guys who almost wrote obituary of Infosys.
Interesting.
But in long run, everybody said that was the best decision Infosys took.
Hmm.
And so, it takes a guts and that farsightedness to see that. I wouldn't have been able to do at that point of time.
Hmm.
But you realize that there are things you need to take from a longer term perspective, especially when it comes to something like Desi Crew. I mean, imagine if you take one or two wrong employee decisions, what happens?
Yeah.
That you can just shut down that center,
Right.
right? And how many places you can keep on going? So you can. So if you want to create a business which is sustainable, it has to be sustainable for everyone.
Hmm. Very, very, very well said, actually. And when you say, a vendor who takes a stand against a client, I remember in one of the meetings you mentioned, we were discussing if we should onboard a particular client. And your comment was that they will put us in liquid oxygen. They will not let us live and they will not let us die.
Yeah,
Right? We will just be working like slaves, but we will not be able to either come out of it or, profit from it. And
yeah.
that, unfortunately, Rajiv, is the truth for a lot of Indian companies and a lot of small businesses, right? So, what advice would you give to a young founder who's sitting and building something, who's stuck in this state? How do you deal with it? How do you come out of this state?
So you have to, um, you see, if you're using something like that as a stepping stone, it's fine. But you need to make sure that it is not bleeding you beyond a point, right? So you need to make sure. You see, sometimes you may need to get a certain business or foot in, you may have to make a compromise. But you should be very clear that it is a tactic, it is not a strategy. And once I go past that stage, I'm going to get rid of this,
But that
right?
tactic, there's always that next sucker in the queue who wants that logo, who's going to put
That's
down the
okay.
rate, who's going
That's okay. At that point
to.
of time, you let that guy go,
Hmm.
right? But you have to grow out of it very quickly.
Hmm.
So you will always have that. And look at those guys. I mean, we did discuss. Did many of them benefit because of this? No. In fact, we know the great organizations which actually did well and we worked with, they were the ones who built partnerships because then the both partners will invest in the relationship.
Right.
As the market dynamics started changing, the quality is required, the regulation starts coming in, they have to also clean up their act.
Right.
So they also then started working, and some of the organizations I know, which I said no to at that time, later on were working in a very professional way with their vendors.
Hmm. Interesting. Everyone learns over a period of time.
Everybody learns over it. Yeah.
Yeah. The market is the best teacher. I guess the market teaches you.
Yeah. So you don't want to be the sucker who gets sucked dry and gets spit out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So, we're coming to the end of our time, and I just want to close with, the three big challenges, according to you, that India should focus on. That that young people who are building companies, three
Hmm.
good things that they should, run towards and build, if you could give any tips.
Well, I don't know if I want to. If you ask me about the country, I can say,
Okay.
how much of it is
Yeah. Okay.
youngsters or
Country is good.
whoever. Uh, and this is because of, three very different things in some ways that I'm involved in. One is in the startup world. Second is in building of an institution like Plaksha, which I'm seeing, and I'm also getting involved with IIT Delhi in some ways. And the third is, of course, in the social sector. So if I start with the third, I will say that we need a lot more vibrant dialogue between these two Indias that we have. And
Hmm.
I just call them India and Bharat for convenience. India is the one which has seen the success, which has achieved the wealth. They are largely urban, middle class, English speaking, largely, right? But there is also a larger country out there, which is still, if you go there, you need to speak in their language. It's vernacular. They're very comfortable in their geographies.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want to become a millionaire. They're very happy in their settings, maybe a little better life. And they're two very, very different countries out there.
Hmm.
And if we don't have this vibrant dialogue between the two communities, it can lead to a very strong political divide, like what we are seeing in some other countries.
Hmm.
And then what happens is if we ignore or we think what made us successful or will also make them successful, and we try to impose, there's going to be a massive pushback. And the danger is that will they then start, the Bharat also starts pulling back India because of the fact that they are being talked down to.
Yeah.
So I think what we need is a lot more vibrant dialogue between these two communities which exist and better understanding of these. The second I will say is, especially when I see US and China being the two dominant players, is uh, we need a lot more depth in our research. We need a lot more investment going into our research, whether in academia, or whether it is in corporate world, in the industry, or you know, even in the research bodies by themselves, which government of India has set up. Of course, government has a large role to play, but I think there are many other stakeholders who have to come to play. Because without getting into in-depth research, it will be very, very difficult for a large country like India to be standing on its feet and be counted and be respected.
Hmm.
And I will say the third thing that we need to focus on is um, that we should not try to ape US and China, but also realize what is our USP
Hmm.
and what is the strength of India. And frankly, if you ask me, our biggest strength is micro entrepreneurship.
Micro entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I think we are a country of entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
We are a nation of entrepreneurs. You see, US was a nation of adventurers. They were literally the country of cowboys. They made those countries. China was always very centralized control country. You go through the history, they were always like that. We were always the very country of local communities, local entrepreneurship. Very, very small. We are the country of kirana shops.
Hmm.
So it's very, very important to value that and respect that.
Hmm.
And in trying to create the corporate world like the Western organizations, which demands uniformity and compliance, are we going to lose our uniqueness and diversity?
Hmm.
Like you mentioned, Bangalore. Bangalore is Bangalore because of that, because we have entrepreneurs everywhere, including
Right.
places we don't want entrepreneurship to be there, but they're there.
Right. Yeah, I found it very interesting that you talk about India and Bharat. So in the book, there is a little piece that I've written about how Kishore Bayani defines it. India 2, India 1, India 2, India 3. And exactly the same definition as you, that India 1 is, the English speaking, more mobile. So, and he says anybody who has domestic help is India 1. And anybody who is domestic help is India 2. And the biggest problem is that India 1 is not paying India 2 enough. India 1 has made the money, but India 1 is not willing to pay India 2 its due share or, fair wages, which a lot of people push back and say it's market economics and market
Yeah.
forces and
Yeah.
whatever, right? But the truth is that there is, some room for improvement, like you said, some room for dialogue, some room for improvement.
Yeah, I think the more important part is understanding and having that dialogue.
Yeah,
I don't believe that just by paying them more, it will work.
yeah,
I am not a believer on that. Uh, in fact, during the time when I was involved with Desi Guru, somebody came along and wanted to do a rural BPO, but wanted to pay city salaries in a village. And I said, you're going to make these guys useless. And he was a bit taken aback. And I said, because, when a guy is earning so much, the family, he will become the king out there and he'll stop working. So,
yeah,
the money is not the solution. Understanding
yeah,
each other, respecting each other is a solution. So, can I treat my maid servant with respect,
yeah. Dignity.
with dignity,
Yeah.
the dignity of labor, and not, knocker chakar, which is a term we use, right? That they are a service provider.
Hmm.
So it's fair wages.
Fair
You're
wage.
not paying more, you're not paying less, you're paying fair.
Yeah,
You're being fair to them and you treat them well,
yeah.
right? I think that is more important. So just paying more money is not the solution.
Of course, of course. Yeah, context is important and building the bridge and that conversation is equally important.
Yeah.
So we left out actually, thank you for bringing it up. We completely left out talking about Pleksha and how you got involved in Pleksha and uh,
Laksha.
Plaksha, sorry. How did you get involved and, a little bit about that?
Actually, my getting involved in Plaksha was completely, like many things in life, was completely out of the blue. So uh, through a friend of a friend, I met him, and this guy was also from ID Delhi. And we kind of had heard of each other, we had run into each other, but once we said, look, let's catch up. And I caught up with him, and he mentioned about Plaksha. And some of these guys, he and some of his other friends were also part of the team of Ashoka during early stage. And he says they have come up with this idea. So the idea quite appealed to me. Uh, the fact that it was being set up in Chandigarh, I think, appealed to me because for some reason, like I told you, I set up Infosys Chandigarh, that always remains close to heart. And it just so happened that in few weeks I was visiting Chandigarh.
Okay.
So I went and saw that time they were doing the digging. And I just thought it was a great idea, something to get involved with. And it's like you get involved in early stages, it may work out, it may not work out. It's one of those
Right.
things. But I mean, I will say it's one of the things which has worked out so brilliantly.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the unique things about India, which I'm finding, is this whole concept about collective philanthropy.
Hmm.
I haven't seen it happening anywhere else.
Hmm.
You always have people setting up their own, which happens in India also, like BITS is there and Shiv Nadar University is there, Premji University is there. But this coming together of the next and bringing it together as a collective philanthropy.
Hmm.
ISB, I think, was the first example, but it was really Ashoka which showed the
Yeah.
way, and then now we have more coming up.
Right.
And the interesting thing about collective philanthropy is not just it brings money from many people, but also it brings very diverse set of people together.
Hmm.
It's more democratic, more open-minded, and than any government institution or a corporate or an individual-led organization institution will be. So I'm very, very optimistic about Plaksha. It's turned out to be extremely well. I think today, frankly, with what's happening in space of higher education globally, we need probably 40 more Plakshas in the country.
Hmm.
They're not easy, but I can tell you from the demand perspective, there's a very high demand.
Yeah.
Just need to see how to create the supply.
Yeah. Well, very interesting actually. Both on, I think universities, definitely there's a lot of excitement. A lot of our friend circles are talking about how they want to set up like the new age universities. Life is changing. But there was a very interesting article that I wanted to refer to. A friend of ours wrote, her name is Nagma. She runs Edelweiss Foundation, and she said that India is looking at philanthropy also very differently now. And they're looking at it like a portfolio. It's not ki check kata aur bhul gaye, but they're looking at it like a portfolio and how much more that money goes forward. Uh, and I'm assuming, again, you've been doing this for a long time before, anything else. So you've experimented with all of these different formats, angel investing, philanthropy, venture money. Can you just tell us like how, and there are a lot of people who are looking at, these models. Like, how do you look at them differently? When do you decide, which kind of money is more worthy? Obviously, the more obvious thing is it's a not-for-profit, it's a for-profit, but like a university is very different from a not-for-profit that you run, is very different from a social enterprise. How do you decide where you want to park your money?
So I think there are, at least to me, there are broad two themes that I look at. One is how we can be world class.
Hmm.
So whether it was journey at Infosys or in many ways what we were doing at OnMobile or with what we do with VC industry, right? How can we create world class entrepreneurs? And Plaksha to me is in part of that. How do we create a world class educational institute? So one is that how do we be in that leading edge? But at the same time, when I spoke about India Bharat, is that how do we also engage with a larger ecosystem? And when it comes to these two, you can either work at a structural level
Hmm.
or at a point level intervention, right? So Plaksha is a bit of, you can say point, but it's also structural. I think Plaksha is also creating a guidebook.
Hmm.
Tomorrow, if somebody wants to create another educational institute, engineering institute like Plaksha, a modern institute, Plaksha is a great guidebook for them to use,
Hmm.
right? So, so that is in some ways there's at a structural level. Whereas if I do angel investment or something, it is more at a point level. Similarly, on the social side, if you look at it, not for profit type, you can do either a direct intervention, which we do, for example, in identifying people with cleft and getting their surgeries done, right? That
Right.
is at a very point, here and now.
Right.
You have to solve that problem here and now. But you can also work at a structural level, which
Right.
is what we do with Dhwani Foundation. That how do you work with these micro social entrepreneurs and make them more effective and make them more professional entrepreneurs than what they are today? So I will say that it in many ways plays to the themes which I have been kind of mentioning about. So how much you spend where is really your up to each one. And I don't sit on judgment if somebody says, I just want to be a VC or I just want to do point intervention or I just want to work at policy level. It does not matter. It's I think what everyone is comfortable with.
Yeah.
But this is where my comfort level lies.
Well, thank you so much, Rajiv. I think, um, I mean, over the last 2 decades, I can say I have learned so much from you and in every interaction, be it micro habits like getting better at planning, to, booking my tickets better, to how to run businesses, how to read a P&L, how to, just do basic stuff in any business. I think I've learned everything from you. So I'm really glad that we had this 1 hour conversation. I'm sure the listeners are going to learn so much from this. And we're going to come back because I know for a fact that a lot of gems and your one-liners haven't come out in this. So we'd love to do another one with you sometime as a follow-up. But thank you so much for this. This means a lot.
Thanks, Saloni. And maybe I need to learn some spontaneity from you.
Thank you.